Welcome to the Soul of Medicine. Welcome, everybody, to another inspiring episode of the Soul of Medicine podcast. Today, we have the pleasure of sitting down with Susannah Dickman, a passionate advocate for the power of plant-based eating. As a licensed food and life instructor and certified in plant-based nutrition, Susannah has dedicated her life to helping families and individuals discover the incredible benefits of a whole food, plant-based lifestyle. After watching loved ones struggle with heart disease, Susannah made the decision to transform her family's diet overnight. 9 years later, she never felt better and is on a mission to educate others about the life-changing potential of plants. From teaching in-person classes across southern Indiana and western Kentucky to offering online coaching and cooking sessions, Susannah is making a real difference in her community and beyond. In our conversation today, Susannah opens up about her personal journey, the challenges of overhauling her family's eating habits, and the incredible rewards that have followed. She shares insights from her education and training, practical tips for families looking to go plant-based, and some of her favorite easy, delicious recipes. Whether you're just curious about plant-based eating or already on the journey, Susannah's story and guidance are sure to inspire and empower you to take control of your health. So let's dive in and learn from this passionate teacher and advocate who's transforming lives one plant-based meal at a time. Welcome, Susannah.
Welcome. I'm so glad to be here.
Thanks for coming on. Well, it was so interesting. We have crossed paths years ago, and then we just crossed paths again through our friend Angie, and I think you were doing a demo, right? For
lifestyles. Yeah, I was doing a cooking demo.
Yeah, awesome. So it seems like things have grown since the first time we've met, and it's so wonderful. So thank you for being on and talking about this topic, because as a physician and doing lifestyle medicine, functional medicine, diet and nutrition is super important given the preventable diseases that we're seeing right now, right? And so could you tell us a little bit about your background and how you became interested in plant-based eating?
Yeah, sure. So my education actually is early childhood, and that's what I went to college for. I taught elementary and special education, eventually went on for my master's and began teaching at the college level. I first became interested in plant-based eating just out of, I'd say more than curiosity. You know, I was always interested in healthy eating. When my son was born, he didn't eat sugar, he didn't touch soda. So I always tried to make sure my kids ate vegetables and things. Still, though, I saw family members become ill, my own family medical history of diabetes, heart disease, and high cholesterol kind of made me want to look around for something that I could do to hopefully try to prevent some of those things. And I know as a doctor, we often hear it's genetic. There's really nothing you can do. I've learned through my plant-based journey and my training that yes, genetics, we all have our genetics. We cannot change that, but we can make lifestyle choices to help keep some of those things away. And so my husband and I have 3 wonderful sons who are now adults. And 2 of our sons have developmental disabilities, so they are still living with us. And they're pretty independent and they're great, but we knew that we were going to be caretakers and the stress that comes with that. And so I just started researching and thought about what are some of the best ways to remain healthy, to keep away those typical diseases that ran in our family. And I found plant-based.
I think that's so wonderful. And it's really interesting that people sometimes don't relate their diet to their health and well-being, or it's just food, or it's just a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and I'll be fine. And when we put people on elimination diets or, more plant-based or Mediterranean diets, which is one that we love the most, which is plant-based, and a little bit of protein, if at all, that there's just such a remarkable difference, and they're shocked, of how they feel. Yeah. And it's even the whole sugar thing has been such a big thing. You know what I mean? I think sometimes people maybe go vegan or vegetarian, and then you dive and they still aren't getting better. And then it's like, well, tell me, I'm like, do you do a lot of sugar? And they're like, yeah, I've been addicted to sugar since I was a kid. And it's like, okay, whoa. Like, my supplements won't work. All these other things can't work against all that sugar that you're putting in your body. So I think, really diving into that with people, and maybe doing like a whole examination of really what am I putting in my mouth. There's interesting justifications that go on. Like, if it's organic, like, it's fine, or it's just organic crackers, organic this or organic that, you know what I mean? Or like the French drink wine, just interesting of how we sort of get into those patterns that lead us into chronic disease and illness. And so, was there anything in particular that happened in your family that made you go, okay, up, or going plant-based? Was there anything in particular that happened?
So my father-in-law, who was the type of man, you only have one life. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to eat whatever I want. He ended up having a heart attack and had surgery, was recovering, then had a stroke. And it took a little while for the doctors to realize that's what had happened. And just, seeing him, a strong, proud person who lived for 4 more years but needed assistance. And both my husband and I just immediately said, and obviously there are no guarantees for anything, but we didn't want to have that same kind of outcome as we aged. And I've learned, and you mentioned, the Mediterranean and all the other diets, but there was a great research study that was done with over 400,000 people. And they said that just opting out for 3% less meat in your diet, a reduction of 3% of animal protein, can give you 10% increase in overall mortality. So you can live longer just, doing a meatless Monday or not having meat at every meal. And then even swapping out eggs, you can have up to a 20% reduction in mortality. I tell people you don't have to go totally plant-based, but just keep a food diary and see what you're eating. If you're not eating any fruit, then add a fruit that you like. If you're not eating any vegetables, add a vegetable. So, for us, it was, we wanted to age and feel good. We're going to age, right? Aging is better than not, but we wanted to try to age in a healthy way. So that was what did it for us.
So what is it about plants that create the longevity in somebody versus meat?
So the first thing that plants have is fiber. Okay. Fiber is a no animal product, and fiber is great for getting the toxins out of our body. So, we eat something with fiber, some beans, fruit, vegetables, whole grains, and it attaches to all the free radicals in our body and kind of flushes them out, right? If we don't have enough fiber in our body, then those toxins just keep circulating in our bloodstream, and that's when the trouble begins. So they also are high in antioxidants. And, I always tell people the darker the color, the more antioxidants. So red onions, I use all different kinds of onions, but I try to use red more because that purple color is higher in antioxidants. Blueberries, black beans. So fiber, antioxidants, and vitamins and minerals, which are essential, for our health.
I agree with that, particularly with liver cleansing. I see a lot of patients women in my practice who are potentially estrogen dominant or their hormones are whacked out. And I just find cruciferous vegetables even just, are so powerful to really shift and balance hormones in that liver cleansing way. I think that's awesome. And I think sometimes that, eating tons of protein is really hard to digest, and if you don't have strong digestion, that could be a problem. On the flip side too, so what do you say to people? So I have patients too who are vegan and vegetarian. That's a whole nother jam because sometimes that will include some things that are like processed, right? And then if they don't have good digestion, that's also hard for them to digest raw foods all the time. So how do you, counsel somebody around maybe how, with some of those existing, weak digestive sort of things and getting them to more plants?
Right. And sometimes, adding more beans or cruciferous vegetables produces a lot of gas and things like that. So I think one of the important things is to take it slow. And, raw foods, mostly, I probably on my diet have a fair amount of raw foods because I have a huge salad every night and I put raw cabbage and things like that. But you can easily cook those fruit, those vegetables if you want to, but making sure when you first add beans, I know when I cook beans, I add some kombu, some seaweed when I'm soaking them and when I'm cooking them in the Instapot because that helps to relieve gas. But gut health, you talk about the importance of gut health. Sometimes it just takes a little time, and our gut does better when we have a variety. And whole food. I want to establish because you mentioned junk food. Oreos are technically vegan, right? There's no animal products, but now are they really, and I probably shouldn't say that specific cookie, but I call what I do whole food. I want the food to look in its more natural state. Yes, I bake it and cook it, but for gut health too, trying to eat a variety. Some doctors recommend eating 30 different plants a week, which also includes spices. We forget that spices, parsley, oregano, basil, those are greens too. And they provide the nutrients that we need. So taking it slow and backing off maybe at first on some of those real gassy kinds of foods, but adding them little by little into your diet can be beneficial.
Yeah. And I think preparation is also, important, like in some foods too, even soaking them or putting apple cider vinegar and things can help break down the enzyme inhibitors that are in some of those foods to make it more digestible. So there is a preparation for it. You know what I mean? It's just like anything for it to be digestible, or adding ginger or adding some kind of like digestive sauerkraut or some ferment or something would be great too. There's a lot of care too, right? That goes into, I think when food is fast, it just doesn't taste as great, So like you said, making it look appetizing with the colors and things like that, or even growing it or, adding some fresh herbs would be amazing. So how did your family react to this sudden change in the diet? It's like, okay.
My husband was pretty much on board right away. The only thing that was a little hard for him was cheese. So I went overnight. I just said, I'm doing this. And I went overnight. He took a little time with cheese because we know cheese, it calls us to eat it. It's got casein in it and it really, for some people, can be very addicting. My sons, we kind of gave them about 6 to 7 months of time. We started swapping and we don't do this now, but we started swapping some of the like lunch meat. There are some vegan lunch meats made with soy that aren't as healthy, It's still processed, but we kind of transitioned them with those kinds of foods until I could find the bean burger that they liked or, those kind of things. Because we really do, except when we're traveling, we really try to stay away from those processed. The burgers that are newly coming out, I think they're great for people who want to transition, but they're just not, to me, they're not a whole food. It took some time. We looked at what their favorite meals were. Spaghetti. My son will eat spaghetti and pasta. So I started chopping up mushrooms, creamy or portobello, really fine in my food processor and putting them in the sauce. And you got the texture of a meat. But, and if I gave him a mushroom to eat till this day, he would never eat it. But he's eating it in a spaghetti sauce, So those are kind of things that you can do. My bean burgers, they're shredded carrots and take time. It wasn't an easy process, but we've been completely plant-based for a number of years now.
That's great. It takes a while too for your palate to change, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. They say 21 days. My husband, it's funny because when my first son was born, who's now 39, on his first birthday, I don't know where I got the recipe, but I made a cake with amaranth flour. I had never heard of amaranth flour back then. And it was a bomb. It just tasted horrible. We ended up throwing it away. And my husband said today, I wonder if we could find that recipe. Because I bet we might like it now because our palate, has changed. So it takes about 30 days. But yeah, you talk about sweets, chocolate, those Hershey's Kisses. I crave them. Now, a good apple or an orange or cantaloupe, to me, that's sweet. Sometimes even they taste a little too sweet, but my sweet tooth has really calmed down. Fruit that's enough for me, the sweetness of that. So
can you share some of the benefits that you've experienced personally since going plant-based?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I am at a weight that I've never been at in my adult life. I mean, not in high school, not in college. And I don't have to, work that difficult on it. I don't have to worry that I'm going to eat, too much and gain weight. Energy. I think that's the number one thing that myself and the people I work with say. I just have energy that I never had before. And that's not to say I don't get tired some days. Yes, I do. If I've gotten up early and I've been doing a lot of running around, but the energy that you feel, that's what keeps people going. That's what keeps people going. You realize just how bad you feel. And just by changing what you eat, how much better you feel. So weight, energy, my cholesterol, which, again, I have a genetic disposition, it's about 150. So what else? Just about everything. I had some major dental work done and I was worried about my bone. They were talking about having to do a bone graft and so I attribute all of those things to the foods that I'm eating.
So let's talk about you being a teacher. So you're teaching this to the community, your Food for Life classes. You do one-on-one coaching as well, right? Could you tell us how you got started in all of that?
A couple years after we became plant-based, I'm a teacher by trade. That's, I found out about the Food for Life program, and the Food for Life program was started by Dr. Neil Barnard, who's one of the many pioneers in the plant-based world. And I learned about his program. He started Food for Life. At first, the first class was the Cancer Project because he wanted to study what impact diet had on cancer. And the program has expanded since then. And the classes, there's a Kickstart class that's 21 day to, help people get over that hurdle of taste buds. There's a class for diabetes, for mood, for issues with women, menopause, and those kinds of things. But so in 2014, I applied to be a Food for Life instructor and was accepted. I was so glad. So I went at that time to Washington, D.C., where the Food for Life offices are, and sat through webinars and trainings on all of these issues and how, the research. What I love about Food for Life is it's based on research, and became a licensed Food for Life instructor. And that means that I am able to present that program to the community. Since then, too, I've increased my education. I've taken a couple courses through eCornell and a couple of cooking classes, and PCRM really provides a lot of support. They have monthly professional development meetings, and they have an international conference every year. So I just went from teaching education to teaching about plants because I just see the difference it makes in people's lives. And it's an important part of wellness. There are many different things to consider, but diet is an important part of that.
Yeah, I love that. So could you tell us, what you cover in your classes? So is it, going to the store or going to the market or like the farmer's market, things like that? What kind of information do you provide for your students?
Yeah. So each class, there's a video that is either Dr. Barnard or one of the dietitians or the many other doctors who work with him to talk about the science. I know the science, but I don't know it like a physician. So the video talks, if the class is about cancer, then it talks about the research and explains things to people. We continue on that discussion after the video. And then I cook, which is one of the most funnest things I think about my classes is that I will cook 3 quick and easy meals. And we're talking in a period of 2 hours. So I will cook and people get to actually taste the food. And that, sometimes, somebody doesn't like one thing, but all of the time they're amazed, first of all, that plant-based foods can taste so good, and that, you can use everyday ingredients. You know what I mean? It's not, you don't have to search high and wide for different ingredients, but that's the funnest part for me, is the cooking. And then people get to taste, and then, we learn more about it. In between classes, there's support. I offer support. People may, we have a grocery store option to go and see. And we go into all the grocery stores because I understand, people shop at many different stores. And, Kay, from when I first started this, it's amazing, the products everywhere, low sodium beans you can find in any store now. But that's basically the format of the classes. The video, discussion, learning, there's even a quiz, and then cooking and eating and more discussion and support.
Wonderful. Do you do online?
We did. Starting when the pandemic hit and the lockdown, we were able to present the program online. And I like that. I didn't like it as much because, I liked it and my family liked it because we got to eat the food. But, I want the participants to eat the food. But yeah, I do online classes, and they're very interactive. I'll put polls and quizzes and things like that so that people can cook along. Sometimes they do choose to do that in an online class.
What kinds of things, what kind of recipes do you, I'm hungry now. What is it?
Well, I know in the questions you had asked, are there any easy, quick recipes? And I will share with everyone. This recipe is so easy that it amazes me that everybody loves it. Okay. So this is called the Yes You Can chili, because anybody can do this. Your 12-year-old child can make this chili. You have to, be aware because it's going to be cooked on a stove. So, but it has, all you need are the ingredients: 2 cans of black beans, and you can, low sodium, 1 8-ounce bag of frozen corn, and 1 16-ounce jar of salsa. If you like it hot, get a hot, medium, or mild. Dump all the ingredients in a pan, heat it up, rinse the beans, but save some of the liquid from the beans if you want a thicker chili. But that's it. So heat that up and you've got dinner. I tell people, have your husband run to fast food, not to buy food, but just to see how long it takes. And you make that chili and you'll be sitting home with taking your last bite. And he'll just walk in the door with, because it's so quick. You can add cilantro or lime if you like, but you don't even need to do that. I like to get some corn tortillas and bake them because, again, it's hard to find chips that are healthy. So I'll cut up the tortilla chips in triangles and then dip them in a little lime juice and put them in the oven, bake them 10 minutes, keeping an eye on them. And you've got chips you can dip, and it's delicious. So that's a really easy, quick recipe.
That sounds amazing. I mean, we do have a lot of convenient foods out there, and they are getting, healthier. That just reminds me, of those like cassava flour chips and putting some little, I didn't think about dipping it in lime, but maybe doing some kind of spice on top of that and putting it in the oven. I guess that's the kind of thing too, is that, using spices and, using the fresh herbs on there to give it flavor. I think a lot of people are just like, I don't want to do that because it's just lettuce. It's like, that's not what we're talking about here because that sounds amazing. Yeah. I can have my kid make that. Like, make dinner. I think you would love that. So, I've been asking, my guests on this show, on this podcast, those particularly who interface with physicians or clinicians, if you could wave your magic wand and have the medical system be different, or in the training of clinicians or physicians and nurses, how would you see it? How would you see nutrition as part of the education? Do you have any thoughts on that?
This is something too that PCRM is really trying to work towards. Because, when I go to my doctor, she's like, it's great. You're plant-based. I'll probably see you once a year for your checkup. And I wish that there was more nutrition education for physicians in medical school. My understanding that there still isn't a lot of that. So that would be the first thing. And the second thing would be even to suggest it to their patients. I know a lot of people say, I've been hearing more and more people say, well, my husband's cardiologist, because it's a lot of women in my classes who have a husband at home who is, having medical issues. But I hear them say, well, the cardiologist said he should go plant-based. And we have no idea how to do that. I'd love for doctors, I've gone into offices, to say, here, can I put this up about these classes? So far I haven't had any takers, which has been frustrating. But just know that, do they know? I mean, I think that physicians have to know that eating more plants
you
makes
would think,
a difference.
But it's just, that's what I mean. I think there needs to really be an overhaul of the way that physicians or clinicians are taught. And because there are so many preventable, so you spend all this time learning medications and things like that. And for that matter, in functional medicine, all the supplements, but we have like the sun, or go for a walk, or eat more plants, and then we say, well, the supplements are expensive, but I mean, all those things that we're telling you to do are really inexpensive, or free for that matter, if you go outside. So, I've seen some medical schools, I mean, they weren't around when I was in school, but culinary medicine, I mean, you really have to get your hands dirty. And that's why I I'm in my kitchen and I know how to, prepare those foods, like gut healing foods in particular is where a big focus of mine is. But like I went to cooking classes just, after work and hung out in the kitchen, and I didn't know how to do any of that stuff, but I learned how to do it. And then at the time, that was a while ago, and my kids are little, and again, like you want them to be healthy. And so, yeah, I mean, spending time in the kitchen and practicing what you preach. It's like you can't tell your patient to eat plant-based if you're like hooked up to a coffee iced tea and French fries while you're on call. Like I will, you know what I mean? When you're on call, like not going to be the first thing on my mind because I just need to get through the night of my call schedule. So, but it wasn't the culture either, right? So that really does have to change, and there has to be more time spent on that simply, as a priority. It just really has to be.
And not to, because I think doctors are under as much stress, if not more, than the rest of us. And I think, maybe that might be another thing that they feel like, but to me, that might be a first step, I don't know. It'd be great if we had the support all the way around.
Well, yeah. And I do think it's really funny because it's like the doctors don't go to they're busy because they're busy. I mean, pound for pound, you're just as busy as, everybody is busy. And I just feel like I'm always thinking about what's the least amount of time and the highest amount of return, or what's the deep root thing that we can do to have sustainable health and well-being, because the chasing after it and the band-aiding isn't really working, and patients know that, and obviously it's not helping. So maybe there's an acute process that needs to happen, but then this chronic or sustainable thing of like, okay, we can help you with this acute problem now, but let's teach you how to eat better.
Right. So that it can maybe go away, or
exactly.
the next one doesn't come. Yeah. I mean, everything I'm reading and, diet can be the number one thing to change to help improve your health. I mean, start with that. And then, but it's not suggested enough, I think.
So It's something definitely, that needs to be talked about. I just, I come from a family of physicians, and they're all around. I don't think we should be excused anymore for.
Okay. I was just I didn't want to be the one to say.
No, I just think that gets us off the hook of like, and I'm guilty of it. Like, I'm busy. I don't want to do that. It's like everybody believes me, but that gets me off the hook of like, so I think we should hold the medical community to a higher standard of care. I mean, being busy that's a choice to be busy. Right. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Okay. I will stop doing that. Doctor's advice. I will stop.
That's funny. But yeah, if we want it to change, right? I agree with you. I mean, but it's harder, it's slower, and people sometimes want the quick fix, which I understand. I mean, there's a place for that, but there's also this place for like a more sustainable way of being. So it might be a little bit of both, and like you said, of like changing the taste buds a little bit. It's just like this gradual both and until it will sway, to the place that we want it. So.
Yeah. And I always tell people, you don't have to go overnight. Just, the best thing to do is take a week, write a food diary. What are you eating? And look and see at the end of the week. I didn't have any fruit at all this week. So say I'm going to eat one fruit every day. Pick your favorite fruit. Pick your child's favorite fruit. Do that. Look at the vegetables. Try to switch your white bread for a whole wheat bread. I mean, I always tell people never look on the front of the package, because they're trying to sell you a product, and they may say whole wheat. They may say this. They may say that. Turn it over. Look at the ingredients. How much fiber is in there? What is in there? So, it's not all or nothing. I think people think, well, I can't do it 100% right now, so I won't do it at all. No, start today adding one healthy food to your diet. And I guarantee after a couple weeks of, adding something new, you're going to just all of a sudden go, I just feel like I have a little more energy today. And then you're going to want to keep doing it. So, you can do it very painlessly, I think.
I think that's something important that you said of having people really know the difference. Do you know what I mean? Because we can tell them one thing, but when they really feel the difference and embody that experience of like, oh, I have energy. So they can like locate that or anchor that, if you get away from it, then they know it's like, yeah, I've been eating XYZ and I know I can go back.
Right.
To, that. At least they know what it feels like to have more energy or their mind's a little clearer because of that.
Because we forget. We think, oh, this is my natural way of feeling. No, it's not. It doesn't have to be.
So how can people find out more about your classes and your coaching services, Susannah?
Yeah, so my website is Eat Plants Be Well, and my Facebook page also. They can email me at eatplantsbewell, all one word, eatplantsbewell77@gmail.com. Contact me, on my website. You can also contact me and we can get together and discuss, your goals. What is it that you want to do? And one thing I wanted to mention too, my husband and I also started, I think in May, we've had our 4th meeting. We've just started a community. It's called Building Healthy Communities. And we have about 10 to 15 people that get together, and we're hoping to have potlucks that are plant-based. You don't have to be plant-based to join. We just ask when you bring food that it is plant-based, but we just talk about why, the health benefits. I think last week we talked about healthy aging, or last month, healthy aging. And I made the yes, you can't chili because it's just so simple. And so if you're interested in that, email me and I'll put you on our email list. So we've been meeting at the Ivy Tech campus here in Evansville. But it's just a chance to get together with people who are interested in seeing what this plant-based lifestyle is about and what they can do to improve their health through food.
It reminds me a little bit of the blue zones, some of their 9 pillars that they were talking about. So eat mostly plants, and community is what you're talking about too. And, that research is really amazing. I just spoke at the Mid-America Institute on Aging, and, we were talking about healthy aging. And so, some of those blue zones or places where there's a high concentration of centenarians, people who live over 100, they eat, most of them are below the poverty line, right? They eat mostly plants and do some herbal teas and things like that. And, it's just their lifestyle of breathing in that good air and community and family and purpose. And so, yeah, all those things matter as well, right? So.
Exactly. Dr. Dean Ornish talks about the 7 pillars of health. It's not just food, but, as you said, community, moving, those people. The Blue Zone special was on one of the streaming channels, and they're growing their own food. They're 90 something and they're going to their garden. And yeah, it's amazing, but it does take all of those things to, keep us healthy.
Thank you so much for being and planting seeds, like planting these seeds for people. I think, when people are doing movements like this, it doesn't happen overnight, but you never know, how you're spreading that, which is awesome. So thank you so much for enlightening us. And
oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I enjoyed it so much. I can talk about this forever.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Soul of Medicine podcast, where science meets soul for whole health healing. Are you ready to reclaim your energy, vitality, and soul purpose? Then feel free to head to our website at kcorpusmd.com and schedule an appointment for your root cause review.